It says right here that your eBay sales are flatlining, but you don't think they should be. Oh my God, oh, this thing really works. We need to check your thrifting vital signs, diagnose any selling issues, and get your eBay listings back to perfect health. Don't worry, you're in good hands with Cosmic eBay Nurse Heather. I've been selling on eBay since 2006. Here is the exact checklist that I follow to keep my eBay sales strong and healthy. Let's scrub in. Roll the intro. Number 1, garbage in, garbage out. If you aren't sourcing good stuff at good prices, no amount of finessing on the listing side is going to save you from that. There's good stuff in every single category to resell, so there's no right or wrong answer there. And how much profit you aim to make off of each item is going to be a personal choice. Some people are going to have higher minimums than others. I personally like to shoot for at least 100% ROI, or roughly doubling my investment. You just need to make sure that the stuff you choose to sell is stuff that people actually want. And luckily, eBay is full of data for you to be able to make those informed choices. That will come in the form of a sell-through rate, basically looking at the items that are listed versus the number of items sold. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is the sell-through rate, which is looking at the exact number of that specific item currently listed versus the number that have sold. You obviously wouldn't want to buy an item that have 10 identical ones listed and only one sold in the last 3 months, unless you can get it so cheaply that you could possibly undercut the current lowest priced item and be the next one in line to sell. So you should not just look at sold comps and how often an item sells, but what your current listed competition looks like. Can I buy this item at the price the thrift is asking for it, possibly undercut the current lowest seller's price, and also hit my minimum ROI goals? If the answer is yes, I am far more likely to buy that item. You can find a great item with a great sell-through rate, but if you can't get it cheap enough to price competitively and profit at your ROI goals, it might not be worth picking up. And lastly, obviously not every thrift is going to be a great place to source at. If you find a few good ones, stick with them. If you're striking out at one thrift, try another. Try and find ones that work for you, even if it means driving a little further away. Number 2 is put the work in. Just like in real life, sometimes you have to work out to stay in shape and stay healthy. You first chose an item that was backed by eBay sales demand and was at a price that you could make a profit at. That is only one part of the equation. Is the item also healthy? Does it need cleaning? Does it need testing? Are you then able to clean and test it? Then why aren't you doing that? eBay buyers are far more likely to buy an item that is in working condition with few flaws. Now, obviously, sometimes that is not possible. Like a watch might require a special tool to get the back off to get a new battery to test it. Or something might require a very odd specific piece to work and you simply don't have access to it. But I'm talking about the things that most people can do. Taking a few minutes to brush a doll's hair out. Using magic eraser to get scuffs off of a toy. Using a toothbrush to clean visible dust out of little nooks and crannies in electronics. Putting AA batteries in a toy to see if it turns on and works. These are tiny things that every single seller can do to make their item more healthy. And you'd be surprised how many simply don't do that. They get in this rush. If I have to keep listing this stuff, I have to keep churning it out, and they don't care about the actual item itself. I also recommend taking it just one step further in most cases. If I find a digital camera that doesn't have a battery and doesn't have a charger, am I gonna sell it as untested and not working? Absolutely not, because I could spend just a little bit more to buy the battery and the charger off Amazon and sell it as a complete working item. A complete working item is far more likely to sell faster and for more money. 2 things that you want, right? Yes, it's extra work, and no one likes extra work. But if you're not making your sales goals and you're not putting that extra bit of effort in, consider investing that time to get your items healthy too. Just know that untested, uncleaned parts or repair items are going to appeal to a much smaller pool of buyers, take a little bit longer to sell, and are usually going to sell for a lot less money. Number 3, show it off. If you're choosing good items and getting them healthy, the issue might be in your vision, or rather what your potential customer sees. A study that looked at 75,000 listed images found that buyers were more likely to gravitate toward user-generated photos versus stock photos because it filled them with a sense of trust. This is one of those times where I'm going to suggest that you purchase something if you don't already have it, and that is a decent light box. I use an Amazon Basics light box. I'll add a link to that in the description of this video, along with a link to my Amazon storefront that has all of my favorite reselling supplies. All things equal, a buyer is more likely to choose an item that has a professional looking photo that fills them with trust. Nothing gives that air of professionalism quite like a crisp white background and colors that pop. Not to mention, stock photos are usually the intellectual property of the brand owner, and by using them in your listing, you're leaving yourself open to Vero takedowns. Coupled with the study I mentioned earlier, you're gonna wanna get in the habit of taking high quality listing photos, ideally in a light box on a white background. And while you're at it, make sure those photos show effort in them. What I mean by that is when I'm selling a board game, that first photo is going to be of everything that comes in the box, all the pieces laid out and everything, not just a photo of the box itself. When I list a doll, she's going to be posed nicely and looking directly into the camera, not just kind of in that dead laying pose where she looks kind of disheveled. If I have a set of something that's a bunch of different pieces, I'm gonna photograph it all together with everything kind of in their own neat little sections, instead of just kind of thrown about haphazardly. These are all things that will give your listing photos that air of trustworthiness and professionalism that eBay buyers are more likely to purchase from. Number 4, titles matter. So you chose a good data-backed item, you got it healthy, and you made sure the vision was clear. Without a good title, eBay's never gonna know who to show it to, and all that work will be for nothing. A good title will include all relevant identifying information. It's the difference between listing this as My Little Pony with pink glitter and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Starlight Glimmer, pearlized with brushable hair. Identify what the item actually is and use the proper name for it. You can do this pretty easily with Google Lens. And if you can find an image of the item in its original packaging to see what the manufacturer originally called it, that's even better. Because then you have a higher chance of connecting that item with a buyer who is using that exact identifying search term. Also think about adding weights for things like beauty products and perfumes, the word lot when you're selling a lot of something, the word working or tested at the beginning of the listing title, or any general words a buyer might use to describe the thing they're looking for, such as toy or plush, figure, figurine, etc. Sometimes somebody's looking for something specific, pearlized starlight glimmer, and sometimes they're open to a variety of choices. Pony with pink glitter. Thinking about which buyer you're targeting can help you choose your title's keywords better. In most cases, I think it's better to give the fully researched titles such as pearlized starlight glimmer because there's more buyers specifically looking for that. But sometimes I'll get a doll that has really interesting features that I think will sell better to somebody who's searching general terms than for the specific item itself. Sometimes I'll find a specific doll, say she has red hair and freckles, and her specific term is she's Gymnast Whitney. But Gymnast Whitney doesn't sell very often. She's not a very popular doll and she's not worth a whole lot. But there are a lot of people searching for dolls with red hair and freckles, and they're not specifically searching for Gymnast Whitney or even know about her. So I might take her from this very targeted keyword into a very general keyword and list her more like doll with red hair and freckles, articulated arms and legs, that sort of thing. So you really do have to think about which pool of buyers you're targeting and which one might be a better fit for your item. I think an easy way to split the difference is to take as many of those original descriptors as possible and then fill in the blanks with descriptors such as doing Barbie Gymnast Whitney 1993, her specifics, and then being like red hair, freckles, articulated, etc. You really just want to make use of those 80 characters as best as you can. Number 5, fill in the blanks. You can think of the item specifics like an extension of the title. They give your item more chances to pop up under more search descriptors, so you're not quite limited to just the title. And the more chances, the better. I don't think it's important to fill in every single last item detail because a lot of categories have like a million of them and it's just not really going to be worth it. But I also don't think you should skip the section entirely like a lot of people do. You should at least think about filling in UPC, color, material, size, year, or a date range. Basically anything you think a buyer might be willing to put into their search. You never know what keyword is going to be the one that brings your buyer to your item. Number 6, tell them about it. Yes, eBay hides listing descriptions. It's sad but true. So because of that, you'll hear a lot of people saying, don't worry about descriptions. You can basically ignore descriptions. It's just a waste of time. I kind of disagree with that, and I take a more middle of the road approach. Here's what I do. First, resist the urge to use that new AI tool. A buyer that stops to look at the description isn't going to be greeted with information that's actually relevant to them. Most of the time, the AI description is a very zoomed out, historical, flowery language descriptor of the item in general and has nothing to do about the specific item you're selling, as in the condition and whether or not it's working and all that. It goes back to the thing with photos and building trustworthiness. Just like stock photos kind of sometimes give buyers a pause versus a user-generated photo, a user-generated description is going to be better than an AI description because it is specific to the one item you're selling. A short summary, in the very least, of the item that you're selling will make you look professional and trustworthy. And it's a great place to list any flaws you came across in when you were assessing the health of the item. Even if your description is just a couple sentences, listing is for XYZ item, comes as shown in the photos. It's better than nothing, and it's better than the AI result. Not to mention, the few times I've had a negative feedback left that was specifically about a flaw that I disclosed in the description, I've had the feedback removed 100% of the time. So you can also consider it like a listing health insurance policy. Number 7, the price is right. Your item is only worth what somebody else is willing to pay for it. There are 2 main pricing strategies. 1 is to list your item on the mid to high side of other listings, and 2 is to list it the lowest. This is assuming all things are equal and you're not comparing a fully working item on the high side to a broken item on the low side. Every customer wants to walk away feeling like they got a good deal on something. So how do you do that in a way that consistently generates sales? Everyone's free to run their business how they choose. You can have a lower turnover, higher profit type business setup, or you can have a higher volume, lower profit business setup. Both can absolutely work. But if you're finding you're not short on inventory and you're still not making your sales goals, it's time to give those prices a checkup and get your stuff moving. I personally price the majority of my items on the lower side in order to generate a quicker sale. This is especially true if this is an item that does not sell every day or even every week. As long as I'm doubling my money and getting that 100% ROI, I'm usually pretty okay. It's completely fine to not feel like you have to squeeze every last dollar out of every single item. You can absolutely stick to your guns on certain things, but I would aim to have the majority of your store priced to move. And when you're pricing your items, you need to keep in mind more than just sold comps. You need to be paying attention to the currently listed competition you are competing against. If you're looking at sold comps for a specific item, and you see that it typically sells in the $40 to $50 range, but the only ones currently listed are asking $80, what do? You might be extremely tempted to price your item at $80 like everyone else because that's the market now, right? But if you can't find any data to back up that anybody has ever purchased this item for $80, you're wasting your time. Sure, you might set the new normal at $80, but if things were selling well at $50, you might be waiting a long time to get that higher price. You might be able to move it 3 times over at $50 than you could selling it once for $80. You'll make more money that way. If it were me, I'm gonna price that item at $50, maybe even $60 so that I'm undercutting the current market, yet I'm still in line with the average sold data. And then also when a buyer searches low to high and they see my item for $60 and everyone else in the pack at $80, they're gonna think, wow, that's a great deal. I'm gonna buy that now. And since that sold is still in line with every other one sold, the only money left on the table is completely imaginary. Do not get too hung up at what other people are listing their items at. You don't know how they even arrived at that price. Maybe they spent $60 on that item and they're only trying to squeeze 10 bucks out of it. Always go with what the sold data is telling you. Number 8, supplements to stay healthy. So you've done everything above, but you're still looking for those small advantages to getting your listings to peak health. Here are the supplements that I recommend. Number 1 is free shipping. This one's really controversial, but I don't think it should be. Customers say they love free shipping, but what they really mean by that is they don't like the idea of surprises or fees. Because whether an item is $12 with free shipping, $11 with $1 shipping, or $6 with $6 shipping, they are more likely to buy that item that is $12 with free shipping every time. This has been studied time and time again, and there is so much data to back this. So if you do have the ability to price in the shipping to your item, you should be doing it. Not to mention, eBay does give a boost to free shipping listings. That is something they have said and is confirmed. So by making that small change to as many listings as you can in your shop, you're basically giving yourself a free boost. Obviously, not every item can be easily estimated and you will still have to stick with calculated, but the more things you can do it for, the better. Next is to promote your listings. Again, controversial, I know, but it works. You don't even really have to promote above the minimum amount eBay sets, which is like 2%, despite what eBay might suggest to you. And not every item is gonna sell with that fee attached. In fact, only about half of my stuff ever sells promoted. And when I've done my previous sales breakdowns, I've found that it only accounts for about 1% of my gross sales numbers. So for me, exchanging 1% of my gross sales for a higher position in search is worth it. Next thing to consider is sending offers. I personally don't actually send offers very often, but when I do, I usually get a couple of bites. If you have some stale inventory, it's one of the fastest ways to try and get rid of it. You can go through, select just your oldest items. You don't even have to send offers on the newest stuff if you don't want to. Determine a percentage you're comfortable with, and then just cast those lines. It's very little work really, and it can have some big rewards. If you followed my checklist, your listing should be in good health in no time. But even so, don't beat yourself up if something doesn't sell as fast as you think it should. Just like in real life, you can be doing everything right and still end up getting sick. Demand changes, prices shift, markets can become saturated. There are still a lot of things completely out of your control that can make your listing sick. But if you stay on top of things, source quality items, and put the work in, you'll be back on your feet in no time. I mean, I still have items that have been sitting for way longer than I hoped they would. It happens to the best of us. Reselling's always going to be a risk. If you have any other questions or comments about your eBay listing health, leave them below and I'll try and get to them. Go ahead and drop a like on this video if you made it all the way to the end, and definitely subscribe because I make at least one video a month about all of my full-time reselling adventures. Follow me on Instagram for more bite-sized pieces of my reselling content, and follow me on TikTok for general nonsense. Now get out there, have fun, and keep those listings healthy.